So you landed on this video because you want to know the differences in revenue share and all the little intricacies between Real Broker and eXp Realty. Well, I don't blame you, because I would want to know the same thing if I was looking at joining a cloud-based brokerage that had the ability to share revenue back to me as an agent. See guys, I've been doing this for 19 years, and for 17 plus years of it, I never had that opportunity because I was at a brokerage that didn't pay me at all. I only paid them. It was a one-way street, not a two-way street. And then I was introduced to this model, this Real Broker model that has stock and revenue share and different ways that you can get paid for doing the same job you're already doing in helping people buy and sell real estate. And lo and behold, and now you're getting paid from the brokerage, not just in commission checks, but also in other different ways, equity with the company and revenue share on the revenue that comes into the company, which is an amazing thing to experience. I'm just telling you, if you're with a brokerage right now, or maybe you're getting started in real estate and you never had the ability to be on a platform in which they can pay you in multiple different ways besides commission checks, it is incredible, guys. It is a game changer, and you will never want to go back to the old way of doing business. So now we decided that, yes, I want to be in this type of a model and have the opportunity to potentially make income multiple different ways, not just with commission checks, but which company that has a model somewhat similar to this should I join? Well, there are multiple different companies that have a model somewhat like this, but the two most popular by far at this point are eXp Realty and Real Broker. But before we dive into that, let's look at why revenue share is an awesome way for a company to structure their business to help them grow as fast as possible. The first thing is that the agent that brings in another agent into the company feels an intrinsic responsibility to help that agent succeed, to make sure logistically they are all set up correctly. Whatever they need, that agent really feels a sense of responsibility to help them because they're the ones who brought them into the company. So it perpetuates this internal mentorship program that kind of self-polices itself because of the responsibility someone feels for bringing someone over to the company, which is amazing in and of itself. Number two, and this is kind of an obvious one, the person who comes over to the company came there because they knew someone. That's why they have a sponsor, which is amazing because now they feel like they already know someone at the company. They can go to that person with any questions, and they already feel like they have a sense of belonging, as opposed to joining a company in which you just joined because maybe you watched a TV commercial or you knew of the brand somehow and you just joined and don't know anyone at the company, and therefore you have to take time to get up to speed with getting to know the people that are there. Number three, financial. This is a big one, guys, and this is the main one that probably people are looking at the revenue share model for, because it is a huge, possibly a huge financial reward for being in this type of model and bringing other agents from other brokerages or brand new ones to the company. There is a formula which we'll go through here on this video that breaks down how much someone could make or earn for going out there and attracting agents to come to that company. And this is huge, guys, because revenue share is a lot more steady once you get some of it going. It's a lot more steady than potentially most agents' businesses when it comes to closings and commission checks. We all know the roller coaster ride that a lot of agents go up and down when it comes to closings and commission checks. And so if you have revenue share as another option for revenue and income, it a lot of times can make that roller coaster be like a kiddie ride as opposed to some big, enormous ride that's up and down, because no one likes inconsistency. At the end of the day, we want to have certainty in our business, and revenue share helps provide a lot more of that. The next thing is on the company side, it is amazing because you have more retention, or maybe you're an agent with the company and you run a team and you have agents on your team. Well, if the agents on your team are receiving a revenue share, it becomes more sticky and they're more likely to stay with your team. And if they do leave your team, they're most likely to continue to stay with the brokerage because they have that revenue share coming in. And by leaving the team, it potentially could forfeit some of that revenue share. So it is a very, very ideal thing for company retention. Now that we've got the reasons out of the way why revenue share is an awesome thing, no matter which company you go with, let's dive into the differences between Real Broker and eXp Realty on this video. So let's start with a side-by-side comparison of the different tiers that Real has compared to eXp. Now, eXp has 7 levels that you can earn revenue share on, and Real has 5. So you might look at that and go, well, does that mean that eXp is better because it has 7 as opposed to 5? Well, in certain circumstances, it very well could mean that. In other circumstances, and I would argue most circumstances for most individuals being with a company, a cloud-based revenue share model, Real's revenue share program is set up to actually pay out more the way it is, even though it only has 5 levels compared to 7 on the eXp side. So let's break that down. You can see on Real's revenue share program, you have 5 tiers, and it's a simple 5%, 4%, 3%, 2%, 1% model in which you know how to calculate your earnings pretty easily. The 5 down to the 1% payout comes off of the company dollar it receives from the 85-15 split that everyone on the company is on. So for example, you bring on an agent and they close a transaction and the commission check is $10,000. 5% of $10,000 is $500. So because that agent is on your line 1, the very next month on the 15th when it's paid out to your bank account, you will receive 5%, which is $500 in this example, of the 15% that the agent paid to the company. So the company makes $1,500, but they pay $500 of that $1,500 to you for the one responsible for bringing them over to the company. So as you can see in line 1, the max payout that you can earn off an agent is $4,000 in your tier 1. And then it goes down to $3,200. And then line 4, $1,600. And then line 5, $800 for the max payout in the different tiers. Pretty cool, right? Now on the eXp side, you can see that it's going to be a little bit different. The max payout on eXps is going to be $2,800 in line 1, $3,200 in line 2, $2,000 in line 3, $1,200 in line 4, $800 in line 5, and then it starts going back up on line 6, $2,000, and then line 7, capped out up to $4,000. So now if you look at both of these graphs between Real and eXp, you can see that in the first 5 lines, the total max payout, if you were to add up those 5 lines for Real, is $12,000. The total max payout for eXp for the 5 lines is only $10,000. But eXp does allow you to have 2 more additional tiers that if you can unlock and have more agents in your organization, you can actually make more by doing so. And what's interesting, if you look at eXp's graph, if you go to line 6 and open up another $2,000 the max you can earn on line 6, that puts it equal to Real's at line 5 at $12,000. Also, the frontline qualifying agents are equal at that point as well, because you have to have 25 agents to unlock line 5 with Real and 25 agents to unlock line 6 with eXp. So let's talk about those frontline qualifying agents and how that works, because both plans have frontline or first line qualifying criteria. Now let's look at Real Brokers. For Real Broker, you get paid right away for any agent you bring on your line 1. No questions asked. That's pretty cool. So you really only need 3 agents, being the fact that your cap is $12,000 for an individual agent with Real. You only need 3 agents to come over to the company and at a payout of $4,000 max for each one. That's $12,000. And now you covered your cap for being at the company. Now to open up line 2, you have to have 5 producing agents, which is awesome because that's fairly easy to do. To open up line 3, you have to have 15 producing agents, and line 4, 20 producing agents, and line 5, 25 producing agents. Now with Real Broker, what constitutes a producing agent? Well, Real put this qualifier into their system and model because they really want to attract agents who are going to produce first. So what you have to do is to produce, you simply have to sell 1 property every 6 months for a gross total commission of $3,000, because on an 85-15 split, that's $450, the 15%, going towards the company once every 6 months. So it seems complicated, but truly it is not. You simply have to be selling real estate, producing to an extent, just a little bit, to make sure you're able to receive all that revenue share. And why I love this is because it keeps people not coming to the company who are professional recruiters who just want to recruit and not actually sell real estate first. So not only do people below you have to stay producing for you to receive their revenue share, you have to stay producing yourself. And on the flip side, let's look at eXp's. eXp has qualifying frontline agents, they call it, as well. For line 1, you get paid right away for whoever you bring to the company, same as Real. Now, if you look at eXp's model, they also have qualifying agents that are needed as well. To get paid out on your first line, you don't need any qualifying agents at all for that. For line 2, you actually need 5 to qualify for line 2. And for line 3, you need 10, line 4, 15, line 5, 20, line 6, 25. And most recently, in 2023, they made a change to reduce line 7 from 40 to 30 agents to open up your line 7. But wait, there's actually breaking news from eXp Realty. This just came out at the beginning of May, an announcement that they are actually changing some of their revenue share. It's actually called Revenue Share 2.0. And the big announcement for this Revenue Share 2.0 is they are changing the amount of frontline qualifying agents on that line 1 that an agent has to have in order to unlock levels 1, 2, and 3. That's right, they're going to require 0 agents on your line 1 in order to be able to unlock revenue paid out in lines 1, 2, and 3. And then in line 4, you have to have 5 frontline agents, line 5, 10 frontline agents, line 6, 15, and line 7, 30. So this is going to allow agents at eXp to actually make more in the revenue share in lines 1, 2, and 3. Now remember, while this is good, eXp still has to turn a profit in order to have the stock go up and have the company be profitable. And the biggest kicker that, again, most people don't talk about is that the revenue share is capped at 50%. So they could open up a lot more of the lines in theory, but at the end of the day, if they're going to share based upon the mathematical computation more than 50% to their agents, you won't get paid. They won't do it. It is capped at 50%. So the company will always retain 50% of the revenue to their bottom line on the corporate side. So effectively what's going to happen is there's going to be more revenue paid out to more agents, which could be good for those agents because right now they may not be making any money or very little because they don't have line 2 or 3 unlocked. But at the same time, for the agents who make a lot of money or an average amount of money, it could potentially restrict that amount of money because if the company is going to share over 50% of the revenue in order to pay out those agents in the lines 1, 2, and 3 with no agents in the front line, or very few, then it's going to most likely exceed that 50% threshold. And therefore that percentage that exceeds over 50%, everyone will share proportionally in the discount, bringing it back down to where they're only paying out 50% of their revenue share for that month, that year, whatever time period you want to put on it. Now, this is a big change because that does change the game for some people that have been with the company for quite some time. However, it doesn't have as big of an effect as you may think. And the reason why, that leads me to my next point, revenue share caps. That's right. This is what most companies won't talk about, but you need to know about. All of these models have a cap on the total amount revenue share they will share back to each individual. The reason why is because they would go broke if there was no cap, and for some reason, all of their big agents that brought over a lot of people were all hitting on all levels all the time. So this is a big difference. With Real, they will cap the revenue share at 60%, meaning that they will pay out up to 60% of all of the revenue the company receives back to its agents, but it will not exceed that amount. If it does for some reason, then everybody will take the proportionate 2%, 1%, 3% hit if for some reason revenue share is supposed to pay out that month at 62%. As one example. But guys, that is huge because the other companies, when it comes to eXp, LPT, etc., they cap the revenue share at 50%. So once it goes above 50%, the company retains any money above that, and they reduce that proportionally for all the agents, again, that are receiving revenue share for that month. Guys, that's a 10% swing. 10% is a huge number. Now, if you only receive a little bit of revenue share, you may not feel the difference there if it's only a point or two, let's say. But if you are somebody who is business building and has a big network, the numbers when it comes to 2%, 5%, 10% can be huge when it comes to a reduction, what you should have been paid if the amount of revenue share is large for the company for that month. Now, let me backtrack really quick too when it comes to a producing agent. Now, we talked about what a producing agent means at Real Broker. Well, let's talk about what a producing agent means at eXp. First of all, they call it a qualifying agent, so the verbiage is a little bit different. But what that simply means is that to receive revenue share of someone below you, that person below you does have to be a qualifying agent, meaning they do have to produce one closing every 6 months, very similar to Real, but that one closing has to be a total of $5,000 of gross commission as opposed to Real's, which is only $3,000 of gross commission. So it's even a little bit harder to maintain that producing status or qualifying status with eXp. But here's the kicker. With eXp, you as an individual who is receiving the revenue share from below you, you don't actually have to qualify every 6 months. Whereas with Real, you have to maintain yourself as a producing agent every 6 months. At eXp, to receive it, you do not actually have to be a qualifying agent. So you could be a professional recruiter, and just as long as everyone below you is producing and qualifying once every 6 months with a closing of $5,000 or more, you will still be paid. Not the case with Real. The main reason why is Real does not want to attract people that only want to recruit. They want to attract people who want to sell real estate first, but then love the secondary income of attraction revenue share. Also, we have the two matrix up of eXp and Real. Let's talk about the averages really quick. And this is huge, guys. The reason why we want to talk about that is because when it comes to a platform where there is revenue share involved, I don't care if you're selling protein bars or shampoo or real estate, the averages for any of these companies are as follows. The average person that belongs to that company over the lifetime of being with that company is only ever going to bring 3.4 people on average over to the company. And so because that's true, and only a small select few agents really make it big to line 4, 5, or the eXp's 6 or 7 levels, I think we need to be more honest and talk about what the average agent's going to do over that course of time being with the company, because it's very sexy to talk about the big numbers, but when you talk about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5% of all the agents at that company hitting those kind of numbers, that's not the average agent. So the average agent doesn't have the ability to make as much money if they're only going to bring over 3 or 4 people, or to be exact, 3.4 people. Is that even possible? No, I guess it's not. So 3 or 4. So on Real's revenue share program, they decided to put the highest payout at the top. So you can make up to $4,000 on people just below you in your line 1 with no qualifiers in terms of how many people are in that line 1. And with eXp, you can make up to $2,800 in your first line for those same people. So if you take $2,800 times 3, because you bring over 3 agents, that is $8,400. If you take 4,000 times 3, that's $12,000. So your payout's going to be a lot higher at the top levels of the revenue share tree, which is much more advantageous for the average agent who's only going to bring 3 or 4 people over to the company during their tenure with that company. Now let's talk about willable revenue share. This is important, guys, because both companies do have the aspect of the revenue share being willable upon some sort of death for yourself if you have revenue share coming in with these companies, which is great. With Real's, how it works is after 1 year, 20% of your revenue share could be willable to your heirs if you pass after that 1 year time frame. Then after 2 years, same thing happens, 40%, 3 years, 60%, 4 years, 80%. And after 5 years, if something were to happen to you and you were passed, then 100% of your revenue share will be willable to your heirs. That is amazing. Now, one thing that is different though is retirement. Now, eXp doesn't have anything like this currently right now, but Real does. Real announced that you can retire with Real's revenue share, which is really cool. Now, how that works is that after 3 years, you are vested. So after 3 years, if you want to retire and no longer sell real estate, you actually don't have to be producing anymore, and you will get 60% in perpetuity of the revenue share at that time forever. After 4 years, you'll get 80% of that revenue share. And after 5 years, you'll get 100% of that revenue share at the time you retire for the rest of your life, which is incredible that you can actually formally retire with revenue share at Real Broker. Now let's talk about fees with the revenue share program. There are a couple fees. There is a $175 annual fee to participate in the revenue share program. So that's usually well worth it in this situation, of course. And there is a 1.2% processing fee for all of your revenue share payments. Think of it like a credit card merchant service fee to an extent. So if you were to receive $1,000 in revenue share, your actual payout is going to be $988 in that example of that 1.2% fee. Now let's pivot to something that is different between the two companies for sure, and that is co-sponsorship, otherwise known as fractional revenue share. eXp currently does not have anything like this, but Real does. Real is changing the game on the revenue share model because no other company has this fractional co-sponsorship revenue share, which is amazing, guys. What it allows is for the person joining the company to actually choose 2 people as their sponsors, as opposed to having to choose between maybe multiple people and choose just 1. So this allows for several different things. Number 1, it allows for the wealth to be spread throughout others with the company, which is awesome. Number 2, it opens the door for amazing culture that goes sideways, left to right, right to left, as opposed to just top down. With eXp, you have silos, and this downline doesn't benefit necessarily off anyone in this downline, and you're in your own separate organizations. Well, Real really wanted this concept of one Real culture. So there are several reasons why co-sponsorship is great. Number 1, it spreads the wealth around to multiple different agents. Number 2, it eliminates the worry or maybe the anxiety someone experiences when they are looking to join and they have more than one person that they feel responsible to name as a sponsor. So now they can actually do too. And in some cases, there are people who have someone who's influential. They would like to be part of that group, their support, etc. But they have someone local, maybe that is a good friend or whatever it may be, that has a local influence. And so it allows them to have an out-of-state, more national influence sponsor and one that is more local. So that's another situation that actually it could help out really well. And another one, like we talked about, is no downward silos. You now have cross-collateralization of multiple different networks and everyone kind of working together, connecting these networks as opposed to keeping them separate from each other, which is an amazing thing. It seems maybe kind of small and not that big a deal, but it is a huge deal, especially when it comes to culture across an entire country. And last but not least, unlimited tiers. Fractional revenue share almost allows you to have infinite levels of revenue share. And how it works is in level 5, if you have someone there that brings on someone that ends up being your level 6, well, now you have no really reason, financially at least, outside of being a good person, of helping them out. You're not incentivized to help them out and make sure that person has a great experience as well. But now you come in and you co-sponsor with someone in your line 5 and yourself. That now connects you guys to be able to work together with that person and have that financial incentive. And what's great about that is when that happens, it almost like breaks off to a whole nother set of co-sponsorship between you and Jimmy, let's say. And then there can be 5 tiers under that. Then you can have another break off over here with 5 tiers, another break off over here with 5 tiers, and it kind of goes on and on in perpetuity, as long as you continue to co-sponsor people that are in your line 5 with that person coming in below them. So it's really, really cool. Hopefully that makes sense. Now, the one caveat with this is when you do co-sponsor, it is actually not 50-50 when it comes to the revenue share payout. It's actually 45% to both sponsors and 10% is reserved to go to the company at Real, because this can get very complicated. There will be potential multiple different tiers and trees and branches, if you will, for one person's network alone. And that can get expensive to run and track. And so they reserve 10% of that to go to the company to operate it. But again, coming from an abundance mindset, having the ability to co-sponsor is just a game changer, because you now have the ability to work with multiple different people. And as the company grows and this network grows below you, it just naturally will expand to something pretty darn cool. That's what's happened for me in just my year and a half of being with the company so far. Now, last but not least, I mentioned this word culture a lot, and culture has a lot to do with money. Money comes from revenue share as one part of the entire model, and culture is very important to continue to grow, and that's what will continue to have the long-standing ability of a company to flourish. Well, part of the culture with Real, they don't want anyone to cold call, run paid ads, spam people. They don't want that to happen. They want people to be attracted to people at Real and the company at Real. So that is a big difference, because what that has done is brought the right people over to the company, people who are producers of real estate first and then attractors second, as opposed to someone who's just a professional recruiter cold calling and bothering people, things of that nature. So the culture really does matter. The stigma, the brand has really accelerated because of that piece that is set forth right in the ICA when you sign with Real, that they do not want you doing that as a company procedure and standard. And I absolutely love that. So to wrap this up, when it comes to revenue share, is eXp's model better for you for a financial payout, or is Real's? That really depends on how you're going to grow your network. For the vast majority of situations, if you run the calculator, run the numbers of agents that could come in, say you brought in 5 agents and then they each brought in 1 agent, and just go down 1, 1, 1, 5, 5, 5, 5, that scenario will always win versus eXp's. If you do 15, and if you do 30, and if you do 35, that scenario will always win with Real's model. However, when you get to the situation where you unlock all tiers with eXp's and Real's, and it grows down like this, as opposed to an inverted pyramid, then eXp's in that situation will end up paying out more than Real's if you have a enormously large network. But if you have a network where you have a lot of people that you bring in on your first line, and then some of those people bring in maybe half a person, and it becomes more of an inverted pyramid, then Real's still pays out more, even with all the different tiers completely unlocked. Again, to summarize, for the average agent, Real's is going to pay out more. For the agent with a big network, but not a massive one, Real's still going to pay out more the majority of the time. And then, of course, if you co-sponsor a lot of people, then it's going to be for sure Real's is going to pay out, even with a massive organization. In eXp's, if you're really good at bringing over people that name just you because they don't have the co-sponsorship option, and it grows down like a pyramid and gets massive, and you have all 7 levels unlocked, eXp's will pay out more in that scenario. So it just depends on what you think the type of organization you will end up growing, the attractor you will be over the long term, and being with a company with Real or eXp. And the last thing I'll talk about is leadership. A company's going to grow based upon leadership. We've seen that no matter what industry they're in. So eXp has had good leadership. They've grown tremendously over the past decade. Real has outstanding leadership as well, and it is the fastest growing real estate brokerage in North America currently. And I would say largely has to do with not just the people in the organization, but primarily the leadership from top down. So definitely, before you're looking to choose a brokerage to go to, research the leadership and make your own opinion as to where do you think the company's going to go based upon the leaders who are leading the company into the future. I hope you really enjoyed this video. I hope it was useful for you. Please click the Calendly link below to book a time to go over any other questions you have about Real Broker. I would love to share my experience and any other specific answers I could give to you for any specific questions you may have. You can also call me at 480-660-5974 or reach out to me at the contact information below. And to never miss another video, please go ahead and just smash that subscribe button and click on the playlist right here.